be thinking it's time to change. Done with the bank? Have you had it with the fees? Maybe you're worried the bank could fail. Is it worth putting your money in a credit union? We're going to ask early show financial contributor Vera Gibbons.
Good morning, Harry.
How do you make the determination? A lot of people are switching.
Well, a lot of people
right?
are. You know why they're switching? Primarily because they're tired of all the big fees that are being imposed by the big banks. They're tired of a really bad customer service. That's taken a hit. So they're making the switch from the banks to the credit unions. Membership's up 11% in the third quarter. 90 million Americans now belong to a credit union.
That's a lot. Who can join, though?
Well, when you think credit union, if you haven't looked around in a while, you think, oh, they're for a niche group of teachers, steel workers, but they've really come a long way. They've really broadened up, fewer restrictions to join. The rules are sort of relaxed.
Right.
So a lot of these are community-based these days. It doesn't take much to actually join.
So how would you determine then if you find out there are some in your community that you can join? How do you decide which is the right for you?
Well, actually, you should go to culookup.com and you can find out which ones are in your neighborhood, which ones you might want to join. You want to make sure your deposits are insured by the National Credit Union Administration. They cover your deposits just the way the FDIC does with the banks, up to $100,000. So you want to make sure about that. And one way to tell, Harry, there will be a blue sticker in the window of the credit union, or you could just ask.
All right.
Make sure you want to make sure your deposits are insured.
So if it's a shack that's falling down and it doesn't have the blue sticker on
don't go there.
Don't go in there. All right. So the question I think a lot of people have is it easier to get a loan at a credit union because
the banks aren't doing any lending?
Well, but that's sort of the reputation though from the past.
Right. Well, here's the thing: if you look at the bank loan portfolios, they're actually shrinking, whereas the credit union loan portfolios are growing. So what that means is if you're a credit-worthy customer, you actually do stand a better chance of getting a loan at a credit union versus a big commercial bank.
You can see why all these people are going over to Chase.
Well, they weren't caught up in the whole fiasco, the whole subprime mess that the banks were, so they were in a better position to loan.
All right. So what kind of rates, though, are we talking about?
Good.
Really?
Yes, you're typically going to find higher rates on deposits and lower rates on the loans. Taking a look at that car loan, over 6% at a bank versus more like 5% for a credit union. Adjustable rate mortgage, they're lower as well. Home equity loans over a full percentage point lower. And credit cards, the interest rates on those, 20% lower at a credit union versus the banks. And that's because when banks make profits, that goes back to the shareholders in the form of a higher stock price. With the credit unions, profits go right back to the members in the form of those better rates.
Phew. Now, what about ATMs and those sorts of day-to-day services that way?
You can get all of the services you're going to find at a big bank at one of those established credit unions. At some of the smaller ones, though, maybe not. Some of the services might be limited. They might come at a cost. There might be some issues there. For example, some of the credit unions, the smaller ones, they'll issue you a credit card that's from a big bank, a Chase, and then you're up against the same sort of practices. They don't have the facilities, they don't have the capacity, but the larger established ones do.
Just in an overall, so many people moving over. How many? 90 million people?
90 million now join.
Is there any downside right off the top of your head that you can think about?
There's not a huge downside. One of the big pluses is that there are fewer fees. The fees tend to be a lot less, which is why people seem to like them. And the overall satisfaction rate, very high on the credit unions.
There you go. Very good.
Thanks,
segment.
Harry.
Vera Gibbons, as always, thank you very much. To learn more about credit unions and banks, go to our website, earlyshow.cbsnews.com.